The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host and producer, Kristina Lew, along with co-host today, Otto Lohse and Paula Uhl. Paul and I, we've worked together for many years. I actually looked at my thing, I think it's like 14 years now, which is quite amazing. At the Town of North Hempstead Services for the Department of Services for the Aging, Project Independence. I'm the Director of Senior Citizen Affairs. Paula is the Deputy Commissioner, and Otto Lohse should be on the staff at this point. He's a longtime volunteer supporter and friend, of course, of Project Independence. But this morning, in addition to all of us, we have Mary Jo Collins, Receiver of Taxes at the Town of North Hempstead. We're going to talk about Senior Citizen Tax Reduction Program, the STAR program, Enhanced STAR, other exemptions, some personal stuff, because that's our favorite part, and just how to save some money, because I think at the end of the day, we're all just trying to save some money. So welcome, Mary Jo. Thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you. So let's just dive in, right? I know Otto has a list. He was asking all the good questions during the break, of course.
Well, we ought to start right with the basics.
There it is. Let's get to basics.
You were in finance for 40 years, and then all of a sudden you end up running for political office and winning. What led you to wanting to do that?
So, yes, and as the listeners are probably doing the math in their head, and I did share with the group here that I was a teacher for 4 years prior to working on Wall Street. And so to answer your question, I retired in December of 2022. At the time, his 40-year career on Wall Street, spent in the fixed income securities markets in sales and trading. And I thought, I still have a lot of energy. We live right in Flower Hill. I'm a trustee there. And I thought, what am I going to do during retirement? Because I knew that I still had an interest in being active, and I said, you know what, I think the right thing will come to me. Well, it came a little sooner than I expected. My good friend, Elaine Phillips, who's our county comptroller, many of you on this broadcaster know Elaine, and I've known her for many years. We were two women on the train platform in Manhasset on the 544 or whatever it was train going into Wall Street. And so anyway, Elaine said to me, Mary Jo, you don't really want to be retired, do you? And I looked at her like, what do you mean? She said, we're looking for a qualified person to run for office for the Receiver of Taxes, Town of North Hempstead. Charlie Berman is retiring after 14 years, so I'd like you to consider it. I didn't immediately answer yes. I thought
it's quite the leap,
years right? 44 years is a long time to work, and then just jump right back in. And certainly as Receiver of Taxes, I know we paid our taxes to Charlie, but to be honest, I didn't know what the office entailed. So I said, let me get back to you. I did my due diligence, and I spoke with the two other Receiver of Taxes, which are Janine Driscoll in Hempstead and Jeff Bravado in Oyster Bay. What do you do? What does your day look like? What are the skills? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And at the end of the day, it came to me that this is really, in addition to something that would draw upon my background, would enable me to give back. And giving back, being a working mother for all these years, I didn't really feel that I had enough time, nor had I done enough to be able to look back and say, hey, I did something that was worthwhile. So that really, in a nutshell, and long answer to your short question, is what prompted me to go out of my comfort zone, if you will, and actually campaign and run for public office.
It's interesting because we've many times on this show talk about when people do retire.
I was just thinking the same thing, Otto.
Actually, I always use the word rewirement, and we try verbally to encourage people to do something other than do nothing, basically, because like I always say, it takes just as long to do nothing as it does to do something. So you might as well do something, at whatever you're comfortable with. So I think that's a good story that you
Yeah.
shifted gears, if you will.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And it's quite a common theme because there's so many people, guests that have retired. Some people in this room, we won't name any names, that that come out of a retirement to do these things. But I think it is nice because I love the rewirement concept because it's like a new chapter in your story, and clearly you've had a few careers, and it's nice that you landed here, and especially doing such great things at the Receiver of Taxes office.
Thanks.
So Otto, what else did we wanted to know, just what goes on. We laughed during the break because even you said, what exactly goes on at the tax receiver's office? We know you collect taxes. Unfortunately, a lot of times in public settings, there'll be the booze will come along, right? We used to always laugh, but there's a lot of wonderful things that go on there. So give us a little background about what actually goes on at the Receiver of Taxes.
So great question. And it's funny because having lived in the Manhasset, Port Washington area now for it'll be 29 years in September, I know a lot of people. And so they'll come into the office, I'll run into them in Manhasset, our office is on Plandome Road. And many of them will say to me, Mary Jo, why did you do this? But what do you do? And, so most people assume, well, I know her name is on the bill, or it will be next year because they were printed. That was a source of confusion. They were printed before I was elected office, obviously. I was like, what does your office do? And so I'm always happy to tell people, all of the things that my office is capable of doing and is there to help the taxpayers. So away from obviously making tax payments, people will have questions about their tax bill. They'll call up and they'll say, I don't know where it is, I don't know when it's due, and again, 311, and I want to do a shout out, is a wonderful partner. Yes. You don't even have to remember the number from my office because 311, we work with them annually and say, here are the most asked questions that you can get an answer with right away from 311, whether it's a copy of your tax bill or, what due date is it, numerous questions. And if they don't have the answer the question, they will send us an email, and we will get back to you very promptly. Questions about tax exemptions, and again, I think we're going to go into a little bit about that, enhanced STAR, and the senior citizen especially for this audience a little later. How to make online payments. There are many ways that you can make payments. Many of my constituents prefer to come into the office because then they know somebody saw their bill, they got a receipt, and I'm done. I know it was paid. I don't have to worry about my check or any other issues. We have other ways to pay. Online is one of them, and we just recently instituted pay by phone. So in addition to paying online, you can pay by phone. But again, all of that, I'm not quite sure how, the question we get, I'm not sure how to do that. Can you walk me through how do I register for that? So that's something that my customer service staff is very happy to help with. How to update your ownership information. Let's say you bought a new home, or let's say you have some sort of change in your deed. There's a deceased, your partner is deceased. You need to update anything. Again, if it's not my area, we're not just tell you call so and so. We will make sure that you know where to go, and the same that 311 does as well. I will say. Tax receipt requests, we send them out once a year. Sometimes people lose them. We're happy to send them out. We don't charge you. Here's another one, how to grieve your property assessment. And that comes around once a year from January to March 1st is the window. I was able to give, although I just took office in January, I was able to give 5 seminars. I will expand that next year. We did it at the Manhasset Library. We had 50 people there. And that just walks you through the process if you don't want to pay an outside vendor.
Which is expensive.
Which is up to 50% of what they save in your assessment. And again, that's confusing. If you don't want to pay and you want to try it on your own, then we walk you through how to do it and do follow-up questions. We don't fill out the application for you, but we basically hold your hand in terms of what are the things you need to know about filing an exemption. So that's another thing. Filing a grieving a challenger assessment.
Yeah, I actually do myself the assessment, the grievance in North Hempstead.
Oh, you do? Good.
I do, yeah, and it's not very hard to do, especially if you're able to go online or have somebody help you online. The process is pretty simple. Really.
Correct.
And you really don't have to pay somebody half your gain to do that, in my judgment.
Right.
It's an expensive proposition.
Yeah.
It is an expensive proposition. How to contact other agencies, and then something will go into, there's an affidavit that has to be filed so that you don't have to file for your senior citizen exemption every year after 5 years, and we'll go into that.
Great.
So at the end of the day, that's what we do, our office does, and I like to say when I took office, the most important thing to me is customer service.
Yeah.
And we were chatting earlier that I don't have a boss. My boss are the taxpayers and the listeners on the program. I am responsible to you. And so my job is to be an ambassador and to say, I have done my best to broadcast and spread the word about what exemptions, what is available to you, what are you entitled to, and how do you access that, to take you through the steps, if you will, so that there should not be taxpayers that say, I didn't even realize that was available.
No, and I think that's the problem,
But
right?
you basically have nothing to do with setting the taxes. You're handling the processing of letting people know what their taxes are and receiving the money for what they owe for the taxes.
Correct. And it's confusing because people they'll get their tax bill, they'll look at it. Sometimes exemptions are listed, they don't know where to look, they don't know what they mean. We can help you interpret that. But in terms
for seniors too.
Yes.
That's the questions we get over at Project Independence, the question really is, I'm afraid I can't pay my taxes, or who can help me if I can't pay my taxes? And we spend a lot of time with financial assistance connecting people to other entitlements, but they struggle with that.
I hear
Yeah.
you, and I've read the wording senior citizen exemptions. What does that actually mean?
So what is senior citizen exemptions? So a senior citizen exemption, that is a income-based exemption administered by the county.
Okay.
And the county will publish every year the income limits that one would qualify for a senior citizen. The current one is $58,399. That's a nice round number, isn't it? But again,
Any sense?
I must say that they don't make it easy. They don't, and I don't know if this is on purpose because I don't want to say anything negative about our wonderful county, but I will tell you. There is a process, and you have to make sure you have all of your files and information in order to get this exemption.
Okay.
And it is a exemption from a minimum of $50,000 to $58,399. So if you're up at, if you're down at 50, it's an additional 50% exemption on your property taxes, not your state tax, your town of North Hempstead county and town taxes, school taxes, and so you will get that exemption if you qualify. But you have to apply every year.
Yeah,
and every year you have to.
Charlie talking about
Yeah.
that too.
Is that per household or?
Yes, per household.
The
Per
household.
household.
Okay.
First of all, you have to be 65. One of the members of the home has to be 65, and you do need to apply every year. However, they instituted back in 2021 a process that my office is instrumental in working with the county in, is an affidavit. And the affidavit you will get, and you fill it out, and that after you've filled it out for 5 years in a row. So if you've only done it 3 years, don't bother filling out the affidavit. They're going to be looking for your application the next year. So for 5 years, if you've gone through the process of filling out the form and submitting the paperwork, you can then fill out an affidavit, which is sent to our office. We coordinate it and send it to the Department of Assessment in Nassau County. Then you don't have to do it again.
Wow.
But
That's all-
there is the affidavit, again, I can't emphasize, you have to be very
Diligent, exactly right.
And I would say to listeners, if you're not sure, get a neighbor, get a son, get a daughter, get somebody to make sure you've done it. One other thing that's very, very helpful that the county has done, and this is recently, I think they did it the past couple of years, but they publish a 2024 homeowner exemption liaison program help. And I'm going to post it on my website
that's
because
great.
it's
Yeah.
county, but they have, I think they're about 35 to 40 different locations that if you put your packet together, you can go into, for instance, let's do this coming Monday. They're going to be at the Great Neck Library. Wednesday, the Port Washington Library. And you bring your package in, which you should have a copy of. Okay, you've already you have a copy of what your income was in 23 and what they're looking for, a proof of your age, and all of the requirements, and we can go over this later in a little more detail if you'd like, but if you have that packet together, they will sit down with you one-on-one. In
that's
person,
great.
in person. So,
It sounds like it's more complicated than filing a grievance, let's say.
yes, there's more steps to it.
Yeah, so people who may not be up to speed to be able to do stuff like this, like you pointed out, maybe get family, friends, or somebody who can help you work your way through this whole thing. It sounds like you need some guidance. If you're not, let's say that's not what you did in your life, you
Right.
didn't get involved with things like that, and you're only making $58,399.99. You probably need some assistance. So.
Well, on that, we have so many questions, as you can see, Mary Jo. After the break, we will continue talking with Mary Jo Collins, receiver of taxes at the town of North Hempstead. You're listening to Project Independence in You on LIU Public Radio.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Lew, along with our co-hosts, Paula Uhl and Otto Lohse. We will continue talking with Mary Jo Collins, receiver of taxes at the town North Hempstead. So much information. I mean, cleared the first segment, we're like, oh my God, we're already one segment down. So let's dive right back in. I know we were talking about the senior citizen exemption for the county. Now, would they still, even though it's a county exemption, would they still contact you, like the town North Hempstead, directly? How does that work?
So, great question. And if you allow me to back up,
Yeah.
because one of the things, the first basic exemption for everyone making under $500,000 is the STAR exemption. Right. The STAR exemption is called Basic STAR. And Basic STAR is administered by the state. If you've been getting this Basic STAR for 20 years or 15 years, you don't need to reapply for that every year. They know what your income is. Once you turn 65, there's something called Enhanced STAR. And Enhanced STAR is if one of the household residents owners is 65, you will qualify for, it's an income-based exemption, and that is every year they re-examine and they announce in June at some point what the income level is. This year it's $107,300, and it was that's up from I think 96,000, and I don't know the exact number, but it jumped quite a bit.
Now, do you have to reapply, or will like I've been through this? All right, can you say, okay, check my tax return, and if the number in such and such an area is whatever it is, then it's automatically renewed, or do you have
You
to?
should imply if you've never gotten. You sometimes, if you're getting STAR, I've been told that the state will send you something. Hey, you might
Qualify
you
for
qualify,
enhanced
and it's a letter with the form because, again, everything has a form, but it has an instruction sheet as well, and it's pretty detailed, and a helpline. So,
Well, just as a senior, I'm retired 20 years.
You wouldn't know it, though, how busy he is.
Well, I'm semi-retired, let's put it that way. I do other
rewired.
stuff. Yeah, I do
Rewired?
That's right.
sales coaching. Rewired. But people who packed it in one way or another 20 years ago, $107,000 is not, if you were a policeman or a fireman or whatever, and you got your Social Security and your pension from that, you may not add up to $107,000 all that easily.
Right. Right. And so, good point. So those people, you've probably been getting STAR, but
Right.
then you want to apply for enhanced STAR. So if you're already getting STAR, right? Then you can just fill out a form and it goes to the Nassau County assessor. If you've never, you're listening to this show and say, wow, I never got STAR, I never thought about it, and perhaps there are listeners out there that have not applied. Then you need to go to the state, and again, they will direct you to, there's a phone number, there's an email, they will direct you to what forms you need to complete in order to start the process. And it's not that the enhanced STAR, it's a copy of your 2023 New York State income tax return, a copy of your proof of residency. You need to prove your age, whether it's a driver's license, passport, or birth certificate. So again, it's not onerous in terms of
But do you
applying
have
for
to
that.
reapply every year, or?
No.
Okay, that's important. Yeah. So they will automatically check your tax return, as I understand it, to see if you still qualify for enhanced STAR.
Yes, but the senior, not to be confused with the $58,399.
No, this is enhanced STAR.
Correct.
Right. The
Yep.
senior, the other one you mentioned, you have to reapply for the senior citizen exemption.
Correct.
And that you can get guidance through Project Independence or the Receiver of Taxes Office.
Right.
Right.
And I will say also, along with, we were talking about this at the break, we have the exciting Fun Day Mondays coming up. I will have 2 staff members at every Fun Day Monday. We'll have a table, stop by. I was told that you better have candy to give out because nobody's
That's
going to
right,
come
yes.
visit us if we don't have something
You need
to
to
give
have
out.
a giveaway at these
So
things, that's right.
I think our giveaway
Not
could be
chocolate
candy.
itself.
So if
That's right,
anyone
you
would like
heard it here first.
Yeah, so anyway, so I think, but we will have, because the county just published the new forms for
great.
senior citizen. We will have all of that information available in hard copy for people to take with them. Last week I addressed the New Hyde Park senior group.
Okay, yes.
I walked in and there were 130 people.
It's quite an active group.
I brought
Yes.
30 copies.
They do bring
so-
us cake all the time, too, so we always get some good desserts from that group.
What a wonderful group.
When do they meet?
Tuesdays.
At what
Tuesdays.
time?
Tuesday is cake day.
They are there all day
11,
long.
11 o'clock
Yes,
till, yeah. But I promised them we will drop off the other
yeah.
100 copies
Yeah.
for people so that they have the
Yeah.
information. But we will have copies of that. And also what I want to make a plug for my office. So we have 4 months where we're not collecting taxes. And those months are the months of March, June, September, and December. And so those are the best times we can spend a lot of time with you.
Right.
Don't come in the last 2 weeks of
Right,
school
right.
and we're not going to be able to spend an extended period of time. But you can either call us up or walk into our office. I always have customer service staff on hand. Say, here's what I have. Again, we can't fill the application out for you, but we can certainly direct
Guide.
you to make sure you're on the right path to putting it all together.
Right.
So I would encourage people.
Yeah, especially as a senior liaison, I
exactly.
think would be our
See, there's a real
perfect
world factor that comes into play a lot of times with seniors. when you're talking to anybody connected with taxes, they're afraid that somebody's going to come to their house
scary-
and
Yeah.
check
Yes.
things out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a true fact.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
heard people say, "Oh no, I don't want,"
Right.
it's
Right.
like like the sheriff is going to come over and check out
Mary
all your
Jo's coming
bathrooms
knocking on
and,
your
you
door.
know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
That's not the
scary
case.
thing.
No,
Yeah.
it's not the case. And again, people come in and they pay, when you come in, you pay by cash or check. And so that's another thing. People say, well, are you going to tell the IRS if I, paid all my taxes
Right,
in cash?
yeah.
We don't report to the IRS.
No.
I don't care how you get your money
Right,
to
right,
me, as
right,
long as you
right,
get your
right.
money. And one, just because I didn't want to forget to mention this, is an important thing on taxes. They have certain due dates, right? So you'll have February 10th will be the general, first half general, and then et cetera, so on the 10th. If people pay, even if it's a day late, I don't have the authority to give somebody, let them off the hook. In other words, I
Right.
can't say, somebody come in, and there's some really sad stories.
Yeah, they didn't have the money.
It's not that I don't have a heart. Legally,
Yeah.
I am required to impose an interest charge on a late tax payment. So many times.
Which is understandable because you can't get into a situation where you're judging each and every case that is
Right.
late.
Yeah.
Your hands full.
Right.
full.
I mean, look, if mistakes are made, we've had people come in and, let's say it was an estate and the daughter who inherited didn't realize taxes were due, something like that, and now it's gone to the county because the county will then, after a certain period of time, put a lien on you, and they'll sell your lien. And so that's really
Serious.
mind-blowing to somebody. How do I navigate the county? Again, we've done that for people. Let me check what you owe. Here's how you remedy it. And then if you come in and sit down with us and tell us, here's your story, and you think that you've been wrongfully charged, we will help do the research and legwork for you in terms of getting you the answer. And if money is due back to you you got to pay the penalty.
Right.
But if the penalty is due back to you, you will get it back.
One of the things I notice is that when you get your bill, it has 6 months worth of bills. It has the one that's due like in 10 days if you
next one.
use the extended date, and then there's another one for 6 months later. And I think it's important that people somehow record the fact that they got to pay a bill in 6 months.
Yeah.
Because you have this bill. What I personally do is I use Citibank, so I set it up ahead of time for payment. But I could see where people could slip up on that.
No, and,
Yeah.
I have to say, because during the show, I'm always looking at press release and information to promote on here, and I have to say your office is constantly reminding people this, whatever time of year it is, the first half of general, the second half, and certainly you do the mobile, at different locations, because at Clinton G. Martin Park, we certainly know
Right,
it's
yeah,
a hot
right,
it's a hot group
A
of
day.
people coming in, banging the door, I'm here to provide tax. So,
Like,
but
okay,
I think
around the corner.
you're trying to work with the public and making it easier for them, because not everyone can get maybe to Plandom, location. So
Right.
I think, everyone's just, I think at the end of the day, nobody's trying to, mess with everyone. Everyone just wants everyone to do the right thing, and get the information that they certainly need.
And so on that note, we do compile an email list. Our software isn't exactly where we'd like it to be in terms of smart software, but we do have an email list. So if you'd like, in addition to mailing out reminder cards,
great, yeah,
we do have an email list that will remind you. And the other thing that I encourage, especially seniors, to do is if you think that you're going to be in Florida or you're not looking at your mail every day and you don't want to miss a payment date. We have what we call third-party notification. And so if you want to put somebody on that to get a copy of your
that's
tax
good to know,
bill,
too. Yeah.
then this way the son or daughter or whoever you designate as your third party will get the copy and the reminders, so that, again, I don't want to have to take
Right,
your
right,
interest money.
right,
I want you to be able to pay on time. I really do, so you're
We should
not
get that
paying
in
a
the
lot.
Well, that's a
newsletter,
good-
yeah, because
so
that's
we
wonderful,
can-
because we have
Yeah.
so many.
It's people, we're dealing with seniors that aren't
Well, I
well,
mean,
and
you get
cognitive
the-
changes. They don't not want to pay their taxes, but we can see, that
Well, your
sometimes we're in there
cognitive
later.
skills may slow down a little
Yes.
bit, and you need help And
I
I
think
didn't know
that's a
about
great
this
idea.
either. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's
We'll
great.
get that word
Yeah,
out.
absolutely. See, we're getting to learn so
And
much here,
emails too, because
Yeah.
when we started collecting emails of Project Independence, it made a huge. We've been really trying them like the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And now we have.
I mean,
a
look,
really
our
nice
email
group just
newsletter,
to
we're like at
communicate, to get it
5,000
out,
people,
like,
you know,
yeah.
and it's amazing.
that's
But so
good.
for your office, so the best number is to call 311 is the best mode of
311,
connection?
or we also have 516-869-7800. That'll bring you to a menu. That's the word I'm looking for. And I think if you'd like to speak to someone in customer service, dial 0. If you want to
Okay.
pay your taxes by phone, press 1. So
so you can
that'll
actually
bring
do-
you right. If you're calling from a title company, press whatever number. But 311 again, it's and maybe it'll take an extra hour longer for us to get back. But again, we work really
that's how
well
we
with
have-
311. I can't say how happy I am with the partnership there and. Things that come up and trying to make it as smooth as possible. Again, it's all about going back to your original question, Otto. Like, what do you do? What does the office do? Yes, we are responsible for. And one of the facts, just to put it in perspective, is I know people may not know this. We have 46 special tax districts.
Ooh, God.
We have 13 different school districts, and we bill 73,500 parcels 4 times a year. So it's a lot of mail.
Yeah.
It's a lot of there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot that goes. I equate it to a duck. When you see it and the duck looks fine, but underneath the water, there's a lot
there's a lot
going on.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot that goes on
well,
for us to be able
technologically,
to.
then software is not easy. From what I just heard, the top level look with all these little pieces that get involved with it.
Correct.
So you end up with a lot of manual stuff, or
Great question.
Yeah.
And it's when one of the things they ask me, what do I like about and I could go on for a whole 18 minutes why I like this job and why it's wonderful. First of all, I get to work with Jen DeSena and the administration that she's put together, and wonderful partners in helping me get things done. But one of the things that I was able to do when I took office is really take a fresh look. How were things done? How can I make it more efficient? And I didn't make any changes right away because I think in business, you need to take a look at how things are being done and really understand the process. And again, I've been blessed with Charlie Berman left me a great staff, so I was able to call upon a lot of knowledge in that staff to be able to say what needs to be done. But there is a lot of manual to answer your question. One of the things that we do is, it's called a lockbox, for instance. And when the checks go directly to the Manhasset Post Office, then they go to a lockbox, an outside vendor, because it's very, very time consuming to open up, because not everybody fills out they don't sign their name on the check, or they put they don't have a copy of their stub, or it could be any number of reasons. Then you get the bounce checks, or then you get the people that post dated, or any kinds of exceptions. So looking at how do I bring that up to 2024 and beyond, and that's
well, I'm a good example. I use Citibank, but because of the system that's used by the town, they send a paper check. Whereas if I could do it like with Zella and dump it right into the town's bank, that would be pretty good.
Yeah. The problem with that is in the town of Hempstead, who has 1 million residents, so they have a lot more taxpayers, and they do what's called auto pay.
Yeah.
But the problem, right, for us at the moment, until we figure this out, is we have so many exceptions, and then they get returned to us, and then we have to look up the information, and then everything is coordinated, right? And how the bill is structured, how how does it get recorded into our system?
It's a lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving
Yeah.
parts. But we've been able to look at it and work with one of our larger counterparties, J.P. Morgan, is among. We have a very specific list of banks that the town deals with. We'll use that, but then. What services can they provide? What services are they willing to help us with? And so that has been an exciting journey to understand what they'll be able to help us with in terms of processing, for instance.
Well, cash, you mentioned cash, all right. One of my part-time things is I do sales coaching for an engineering company that sells a system for processing cash. And it's very complicated. And they don't get involved with government. They get involved with retail chains that, have a lot of cash. And it's a complicated affair, and most people really don't want to handle cash.
Right.
It's in your case, do you get many people who pay by cash?
I prefer not to say the number, but let me tell you, it is not insignificant.
Really? Yeah.
It is
so that's got to be handled.
We can
and
take
that,
cash at other town locations, though.
No, but
No,
for-
not anymore, yeah.
well, there's security and all kinds of issues involved.
There apparently was, at one point, there was a limit. I think it was $10,000. That was challenged by a taxpayer. And there was a reporting form that if you're a business, you have to form a file 8300, I think it, don't quote me on that. But the government is exempt from that.
Yeah.
So there is no limit. And there are people who
Oh,
choose
God.
to
Stressful, making me
exercise
sweat
that.
thinking about it.
So you can come in with a big pile.
Send them to my house,
Rather not advertise that.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes.
I personally have been involved with that, and through different non.
Well, Otto, we are already done with another segment. After the break, we will continue talking with Mary Jo Collins, receiver of taxes at the town of North Hempstead. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Lew, and I'm with Paula Uhl and Otto, my co-host, and we are talking about so many different things. My brain is like on overload with Mary Jo Collins, receiver of taxes at the town North Hempstead. So let's dive back in. I know there's so much to talk about, and it's such a pleasure to listen to you, Mary Jo. A great part about doing the show is, we say this every week, and no matter what the career is or what the person's doing, you could tell when someone really loves what they're doing and is passionate, and it's really lovely, because I know it's not the most invigorating topic people want to listen to all the time, right? But I think it's such great information, and you're making it very clear. And I know there's a bunch of other exemptions that are, we mentioned there might be some veteran ones, so if we can just touch upon those. I know some of our listeners certainly.
So we touched upon the STAR exemption. We touched upon enhanced STAR and the senior citizen exemption. The additional exemptions that hopefully people are aware, and if they're not, again, we can guide you to where the information is. It's on the Nassau County Department of Assessment website. We will have the information at Fun Day Mondays. There's a veterans exemption, and there's a list of things which is pretty short: a copy of a deed, copy of your proof of residency, a copy of your discharge papers that you need to submit, but they make it pretty easy for the veterans to file their paperwork. There's something called a limited income and disabilities, which does not have an age limit, but if you get the limited income, let's say you have a handicap, you're handicapped, and so you've been getting this, you can't get the senior discount as well. You can get enhanced STAR, enhanced STAR, but you can't be limited income and the senior. Those are the only two that you should know
Are you
about.
able to, if you fall into that category, find out like which one is like more bang for your buck, kind of a situation? Like, how does that work?
No,
Like,
it's not either or.
Yeah.
It'll be the same.
It'll be the same. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
it'll be the same. Volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. There's an exemption for them, and again, you have to have documentation that you have a copy of your deed, your residency, and a letter from your department which verifies your years of service. There's home improvement exemptions, and home improvement for the physically disabled. The home improvement numbers have changed, so again, it's important, go to the Department of
the most
Assessment
current.
website if that is something that you think that you would qualify
Would a
for.
ramp for seniors fall in that category? If
Did-
someone
just
needed a
what?
ramp?
I'm sorry?
A ramp? Would ramps fall into that category?
It should, yeah.
'Cause we do get quite, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good to know.
Just to the veterans for 1 second. At one point, a veteran was somebody who was in a combat situation, but I am one that was luckily between Korea and Vietnam, and there is a Cold War
Yes.
exemption, which isn't huge, but it's better than
Right.
nothing.
Yeah.
It all adds up, is bottom line.
Yeah.
Not to confuse people, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Back to that senior citizen exemption, the school districts have the option of opting into that or out of that. And of the 13 school districts, that when they first instituted this, there was some confusion. Of the 13, there were 1 or 2 that either didn't make the deadline or decided not to do it. We are working with the Department of Assessment to see for next year's school, since the school taxes will be due, we start collecting in October and they'll be due by November 10th. We are working with them to just verify, is there anyone who has not opted in? Don't quote me, but I believe Mineola has not opted in. But again, I don't want to give bad information, so we are working to verify with the Department of Assessment what
That's important.
what school districts may not have elected to opt in. So sorry
Okay.
to sidetrack there,
No,
but
that's important. That's
forgot
so
to,
important.
I forgot
Absolutely.
to mention that.
No, really important. So I know, Otto, you were asking about any veterans kind of stuff. Is there anything particular you wanted
just
to know? or
the
just
last one was the Cold War, which actually just came into play maybe 10 years ago or whatever. It
Correct.
didn't apply before that.
Mhm.
Another question I have, you mentioned before paying on the phone. There are a lot of options that you can use to pay. And frankly, one of them I looked at is if you use a credit card, you better think a little bit about it, because I saw that the credit card fee is added onto the bill.
That's correct.
2.3%.
Yep.
So in this world now, if you're paying $10,000 or $15,000 or more a year taxes,
It adds
and then
up.
you pay
Yeah.
2.3%
Yeah.
on top of that,
Yeah.
you're paying a pretty good hunk of change.
And just to be clear on that, we do not collect that.
Yeah.
That money does not go to the town of
Right.
North
Goes to the
Hempstead.
credit card.
That goes to the
Right.
credit card, and it's a 2.3% surcharge
Right.
that is paid. You know, there's a nominal fee if you pay using your bank electronic ACH payment, but correct, that is a fairly hefty amount. I would say we don't have a lot of credit card. We don't have a lot of credit card payments. Most of our payments come in by check, or come in, in person in check, money order, or cash. Certainly you have the option though to pay by credit card. Maybe for some reason for this year, you needed to, and it's an option.
No, well, it's nice to have all the different
Yeah.
options.
And you talked about, Kristina, about the, we do set up mobile sites, which we advertise on our website. We'll take a fresh look at that. Are we going to the right places? And somebody said to me, couldn't you come to Port Washington sooner in the year rather than later? I don't know if I can be quite that granular in terms of when
they
we
want
go.
concierge service.
And you can only pay by, we don't take cash at those
Yes.
sites.
Oh, good. Great
Okay.
to
We,
mention.
we don't have a drive-in window. Hempstead, you
Yeah,
can
we
drive
do.
in like a
Hempstead,
bank.
right,
We,
yeah.
we don't have that. You can come to our office. We have an after-hours lockbox that if you don't have time, you're working, or you need to drop it off, you can do that during the collection time. Pay by phone, I mentioned. We are in the process of having a kiosk installed so that, so that you can pay by credit card. You can do things on your own. But again, if you come in and you're not quite sure, I have 3 dedicated customer service people. They'll walk you through, I'd like to know, how do I set up an online account? All of them can walk you
that's
through
great.
how to do that.
What's interesting when you think back, why would somebody want to go to a place to pay? And I remember as a kid having to take cash and paying a water bill. I remember having to walk. I lived in Woodhaven in Queens, and I remember I couldn't have been more than like, it was a different planet, like 8 years old.
He's like, full disclosure, different time.
And I'm going to pay the water bill with money. And I remember doing it, and I remember I could almost picture where this place was, the utility. And it was a different mentality then. Most people didn't have checking accounts.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And they paid money orders or cash.
Well, you bring that up. It's funny. And so what I did this year is during collection, I like to go out into the lobby and introduce myself. I say, hi, I'm your receiver of taxes. And they'll say, oh, you're the one whose name is up there. Your name is on my bill or whatever. And there were a couple of instances where a son or daughter came in to pay for their parents. And they look pretty young, like 21, 22. And so I'll say to them, I don't want you to be offended by this, but do you know how to write out the check? And because many of them, I know, I know my sons, I don't think they use checks. They use Venmo or Zelle or whatnot. And so a check, how do I do this again? And
I personally, I don't try to use cash if I can avoid it. I use
Check.
one of those.
Yeah.
I play golf. I pay for the golf. All the other three send me.
Like Venmo,
PayPal
Zelle
or,
stuff.
Yeah. So that's sort of funny, but
That is true.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily know how to set it.
It's interesting that still there's that mental block, I think it is, frankly, that you're afraid that your payment isn't going to get to where it's supposed to get to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring it there.
Right.
So one of the things I also wanted to mention back to 311 is one of my top priorities is to communicate with the town of North Hempstead residents about how they can pay their taxes, what exemptions, grieving, really be an ambassador. So I would just say I have a list of all the Project Independence, the groups, not necessarily who runs them. And so I know Dorothy Beck had reached out to me, and I have some other things set up in the fall. I would encourage, if you're listening and you have your leader, whoever runs your group, reach out to me because I would love to come and it can be one of the, I think it was the Albert Carl Place group. I have to make sure that I don't compete with bingo,
Right.
And serious
so,
things, right.
and if they
You want to
say
start
how,
off on the right foot.
and I'll say, how long do I have? And they'll say no more than 15 minutes because this is when we stop bingo. All kidding aside, though, I can do as detailed or as top level and leave you information. But at the end of the day, I hope to have visited every senior group.
And I must mention that next week, if you were listening to the show live today, on Wednesday, June 12th, I believe it is, our Project Independence Advisory Committee, Mary Jo will be our guest speaker. So anyone can come attend our advisory.
Yeah.
You could either Zoom in, you can come to Glen G. Martin Park at 10 a.m. And hear all this good stuff. And I know you're going to bring some handouts too. So
I don't know if I'm bringing candy though.
I know.
Do you visualize, like if you pay via a mortgage, your taxes can be paid through the mortgage? Is that?
Yeah, so if you have a mortgage, and this confuses people, great point, thank you for bringing this up. Let's say your mortgage gets paid off.
Right.
Not all title companies will tell the homeowner, hey, you know what, you have to now sign up with your
Right,
tax
yes.
office because I don't have ESP. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know necessarily when your taxes are due. I mean, at
communication's
some
not
point, the
happening.
county will alert that there's a deed change, that type of thing. But please, please, please,
that takes
take it
place.
upon yourself to call and say, you know what, I just paid off my mortgage. I want to make sure that I'm receiving my tax bill.
Right.
Very important.
Yeah.
But that changes the way you used to paying. Like before you would pay monthly, it would be part of your.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
Right, like
Now,
me, right.
You can't pay monthly. Do you
Now it's
visualize
it's
it ever
quarterly.
happening that you could pay monthly?
Not yet, because that would involve monthly, the
Oh,
automatic
this other-
pay,
Yeah.
and because of all the exceptions,
Yeah,
we're not exactly set up to
I
do that.
understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
What you talked about earlier
Yeah.
with all the different pieces to
Yeah, so not yet. Never say never, Otto.
No, right.
So never
I mean,
say
it would
never.
be good, frankly. I mean, if you can
Yeah,
pay
because it's like easier to pay a smaller
1,000
amount,
a
right?
month instead of 12,000
Right.
in one
Yeah.
shot.
Right.
that,
But then we have the people that'll come in on, on October 1st or before November, the first school for 24, 25, and they'll pay it all up front because they
Right.
don't want to have to think about it.
I know that's
And they have I think they get a 1% discount for doing so. So, but again, then we we have the money. So
Right.
earlier, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Wow, really,
Yeah.
really good stuff. There's something else that I had on here, and if I could go through my papers. So and I saw there's also an exemption for first-time home buyers also.
Yes,
So
and
is
again,
that
that's administered by
that's-
the county, and you can, I think it's it's been in existence for some time, but I think it's up to, the exemption, it decreases from years 5 so it increases through year 5, so it's like a
Okay.
5-year exemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you get on, you mentioned an email list before.
Oh, yeah,
For
that's a good one, too.
notifications.
You can, I think you can call 311.
Right.
And that's the easiest way.
Yeah.
And they can take your information and they'll enter it. That's the simplest
it's
way.
automatic,
And
yeah.
You want to get on the,
yeah, say you want to
Receiver
receive
of
a
taxes.
receiver of taxes email. And again, I promise you're not going to get one every week from me. Trying to be thoughtful about what I send out. The one that I did send out, I did send out a letter for those of you that don't have a mortgage and received your receipt. Not actually everybody we received it. Just again, reminding people what it is my office can do.
Yeah,
can
and I'd
do
love
for
to, Paul had mentioned earlier about Project Independence's email newsletter. And it's a great place, we're constantly, the clerk's office asked me to put in some stuff, so I definitely, we always have the reminders about, tax payments to come up. But I definitely think we should put in there, you could sign up for this email thing too, so I'll definitely reach out and we'll put a little blurb in, because that
And the
comes out once a
third-party
month.
notification.
Yeah,
I was just
absolutely.
going to say that.
And
talks-
that's
both
huge,
of those,
yeah.
both of those. And you know what I think we'll follow up with is just the link. I have tax office. They can email or you can
Absolutely,
call,
yeah.
There's many ways that you can.
No, I read something about portals, a school portal and a general portal. What's that all about?
Good question. Again, if you go online, the school taxes and the general taxes are segregated. When we
Right.
collect general taxes, we put them in a separate account. Those monies are never mixed. So
Right.
it's important, if you go into general and you're paying your general, you need to pay the amount, and people confuse this too. They might pay the wrong amount because they're paying their school tax and they hit general tax. You need to pay, it's a general or school. And what I want to mention too, since you brought that up, we talked about how large NASA is. The tax roll for this year was close to a little over $1.4 billion. Of that $1.4 billion, I think listeners would be interested to know. And they said, well, how can you bring my taxes down? I said, I'm sorry, I can't. I could just make sure you know about your exemptions. But the school tax portion of that is over $1 billion.
Yep.
So the school tax is, I think, almost $1.1 billion between the 13 school districts, and they were just recently voted on. So those budgets will be reflected in next year's when you get your bill in October to pay September for October. Again, the other balance of it is split between the county and town. And a little plug for Jen and her administration. She was able to cut taxes again for the town, and just trying to keep a close eye on where the money is. How do we make it more efficient
No, and that's
town-wide?
what I always think of, which is so lovely. Unfortunately, I don't live in the town of North Hempstead, but what made it, and I remember from the beginning was the fact is, seniors, like, well, we don't even have kids in school anymore. We don't get, we pay all this money, so that was like, PI became, their gift,
Actually, when we
right?
were
Because
born,
it was such a huge part.
Seniors paid so much, 40, 50, 60
Right.
years of taxes, that at the time it was like, this money has to come back to you
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Like, let's look at the whole, how we allocate resources in the town, and this percentage
Yeah.
should go towards helping
No, and
seniors.
it's so nice that
And
North
we were
Hempstead
born-
has, like, this
because
great service
we're
for them.
very unique. Other
Yeah.
towns don't have
No.
the senior at,
Right.
yeah,
So-
so we're very lucky.
And again,
Yeah.
there's no reason that any senior should not be
Right,
getting
yes.
the exemptions there.
Yeah.
I keep harping
the
on this,
focus.
but it's
No, that's-
it's
Yeah,
important.
that you're
And-
entitled to.
And the resources of
Any
311, my office,
Right.
the
Yeah.
county, all three working to make sure that people get what they're entitled
Yeah,
to
that's-
help you stay in Nassau County. We'd like to
Right,
keep
that's
you
it,
here.
right? That's the
Well,
goal.
I mean, reality on Long Island is school systems are excellent and they cost money.
Right.
And there's, I think, 120 school districts on Long Island. They all have their own little
Right.
empire, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
the town really can't do much about that. These are all,
No, I think just you as taxpayers, even if your kids have graduated and maybe you have grandchildren in the system, they publish everything about the school
Yeah.
budget. So, and you get to vote on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take
Right.
a hard
Let your
look.
voice
Go
be
to a
heard,
meeting.
right.
You know,
Absolutely.
no reason you can't do that.
Absolutely. Well, we would like to thank our guest today, Mary Jo Collins, Receiver of Taxes at the Town of North Hempstead. I want to thank everyone else who has listened to us or, will be watching us on North Hempstead TV. And you're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you very much. Thank you.